Evening and welcome to a Press Pros Monday Huddle. Just in time, the internet kicked on and Sonny Folks is back, and we are joined by Scott Elchert. Scott, shall I refer to you as the retiring head coach at Jackson Center? Retiring can mean two different things. Shy, and I don't think that applies, but you just completed your 23rd year, an outstanding run with the Tigers, and an outstanding final year to go out on. We appreciate you joining us tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Yes, sir.
Mr. Folks, he is at the offices of Skynet Internet, and I don't know what's going on because Skynet is typically super dependable when it comes to rural internet, but there he's back. Are you at home? Because you told me you lost the key to Skynet Internet.
Well, I did. I lost the key to my advantage, and so for tonight, I've got to muddle through being out in the country, and we'll get by. Hopefully, we get by as well as we did last week. Anyway, If you've got issues with Wi-Fi, which I didn't used to have Wi-Fi at all, give them a call at 773-0098. They will help you in any way they can. They will answer the phone, and they will follow up. One nice thing about it, you're going to get a hold of Craig or Mike Grissom. They'll be glad to take your call. And as I said before, they'll find you and they'll fix you. So give them a call at Skynet in downtown Pickwa, 773-0098. That's 937 area. At least you're moving around a little bit now, Bruce.
Yeah, I am. I was frozen for a while. I don't know what's up with my my own rural internet here in lovely Plain City, Ohio, just outside Plain City, Ohio. But hopefully we'll get all the glitches are behind us and we can have a nice conversation tonight. Scott, I'm not sure how much of the state boys basketball tournament, if any, did you take in?
I took in the majority of it. Yes, I saw a lot of games.
And I guess there's no teams from Southwest Ohio won a state championship, which I find a little surprising. That's not typically the case. All the teams this year come from the Cleveland area, the Akron area. We got two from the Akron area. We got two from the Cleveland area. And I don't know, overall thoughts, a lot of good basketball played, but I missed the days when scoring was higher in the state tournament. I know you're a defensive-minded coach. What do you see when you watch Ohio high school basketball now? Is it better than it used to be? Is it better in some aspects, worse in some aspects? I'd like to get a coach's evaluation of the sport.
Yeah, I thought the games down there this weekend were extremely, extremely competitive. Many of them went right down to the wire and came down to a last-second shot, overtime games. And I thought there were a lot of great individual players out there that would appear are going to go on and play D1 college basketball. So, from that standpoint, I thought the competition was great. Sonny and I have talked about this before many times, actually, with the scores of games nowadays and things like that. I attribute a lot of it to the fact that defensives have just got that much better through technology because you have access to so much tape on any one opponent. And, coaches just know every one of their moves and every one of their plays. It's extremely, extremely difficult because of how well coaches scout and implement game plans.
I not only saw that and noticed that, but I saw the difference in what used to be the A player and what now is the A++ player. And there is definitely a new category of players when you look at, especially in Division IV, what Richmond Heights and that's been the topic of the internet all day is about Richmond Heights and what Lutheran represents to the future of high school basketball. But there's definitely another category of basketball player when you throw those two schools into the mix.
Oh, there's no doubt. There's some tremendous athletes and some, tremendously skilled players playing on both those teams, and then it does make it extremely difficult. But I don't know if I have the right answer or a quick fix for any of that. I just know that when the day is done and you have to come up against those teams, you need to try to figure out a way to put your team in the best position to win, and that's not always an easy task by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, you look at the caliber and quality of schedules that both those teams played this year, it's relatively impressive.
Yes, sir. And the one thing you and I have talked about this dozens of times, you can't coach size. I mean,
Yeah.
it's hard to beat rats playing with mice. And when you're trying to play 6'7", 6'10", and you're 6'1", 6'3", that's difficult.
Yeah, I mean, it's you're right. I mean, it's just there are in some instances there's just clearly an added advantage if you're talking that kind of size.
So the Dayton Arena, I think, is a great venue for the tournament. I saw a story today from our colleague Jeff Gilbert that we're in the second year of a 3-year deal at UD Arena. I would anticipate that would be extended. First of all, do you guys like the tournament at UD Arena? Scott, you've coached games in Columbus in the state tournament. It used to be, kind of a thing that people would say, we want to get to Columbus. We want to get to Columbus. Ohio State, I don't think, is really interested in having the tournament because it coincides with the first weekend of the men's tournament and the women's tournament. I think Ohio State would like to keep, as long as the women can play at home, which Ohio State did play at home today, and I presume won. They were well in control of that game. I think they'd like to keep that building vacant for their women's basketball program. But how do you feel about the tournament being in Dayton? Let's just stick with that topic first.
Well, I personally don't mind it, but I also live 50 minutes away.
Yeah.
If I lived, far away, I may not like that. We have a lot of personal experience with UD from being down there for district games and so forth, being from the Southwest District. And I do know this, that their staff, at least our experience down there, their staff down there, they do a tremendous job, and they treat everyone, to my knowledge, with first class, and they make you feel like you're important, and they want to have you there. So I see a lot of positives from that standpoint. I know people talk about crowds and things like that, but the trend was already there. It was already set in place. It wasn't like when it was at the Shot that there were great crowds that were showing up the last few years there. So I think it's just kind of a sign of the times. But I don't know what overall attendance was this year, but based on the last 2 years, I definitely feel like overall attendance had to be up quite a bit compared to where it was last year. I don't know if you got any thoughts on that, Sonny.
Well, I think it was up this year, but the one thing I also noticed too, the way the lighting is in that arena, if there's nobody in the upper bowl of the arena, you can't tell anyway. If it's full, it's hard to tell because it's not lit up. So
Right.
For that matter, it disguises the fact that attendance might not be up. Now, on press row, they were kind of giddy about the fact that crowds like they hadn't seen at the state tournament in 3, 4, 5 years. I don't know. I didn't hear specifics about attendance numbers, but it did look like the lower bowls for at least 2 of the 3 days were very well represented. I'll tell you this, and you'll appreciate this. Trey Elchert will appreciate this. That is the WBL, and Ottawa Glandorf was very well represented. The last person that left town shut off the light.
Yeah, I mean, they come out in groves, literally, OG does, and and they get behind their team. I mean, it was clearly a home court advantage, both games that they played, just from their fan standpoint, and they've been like that for years, though.
I did see some numbers. I was struggling trying to find them online today, that attendance was in the tweet that I saw, attendance was actually down a little bit from previous years, and it's been down markedly over the last 2-3 years. I think some of that's COVID. People, I don't know, it just got out of the habit of going. I actually think some of that too is electronic ticketing. I don't think the older fans love the electronic ticketing. I don't love it. But what other forces? I mean, inflation could be there. People are struggling to pay their bills in a lot of areas, and maybe $10 for a high school basketball game or a weekend in Dayton is not in the budget anymore. But I think UD Arena, the one thing about UD Arena that I'll say is it does not have to be full to be a great building for basketball. Even Scott, when you guys played there and took care of business in the district, it probably wasn't half full. But it sounds really alive with the way that the arena is configured and the way that the noise reverberates through the building.
Yeah, I would agree 100% with that. And I think your assessment on reasons why the attendance is down is very accurate as well. There's not just one reason, but you're right. when with COVID, whatever, they canceled the tournament and people did get in the habit of not going. TV obviously is much more easier to watch the games on TV now, both semis and finals. So I just think there's a combination of factors at work that's hurt attendance overall.
But, I do know this because I know a lot of people who are in their 60s and 70s, including myself, who will not buy a ticket online. They just aren't going to do that. One, they don't know how. Two, they're embarrassed to ask somebody for help. And three, they're terrified of having their identity stolen online through a credit card purchase of a ticket for something like that, where they're not sure of the process in the first place. I don't know if this was ever vetted out for these pushbacks or not, but I know there's a lot of people who just say, I guess I'm done, because if I can't go in and give them $10 and get in, a $10 bill and get in, I don't need to go.
Yeah, I'm on board with that. I mean, come to Jackson Center, we still sell a paper ticket and take cash at the door and do no online sales. So, it's simple. It still works, but it's not that's not the norm when you get into the tournament. That's for sure. Everything's online, and I'm sure a lot of those folks also probably don't like the fact that if they did go to the game, that they can't walk up to the concession stand with cash and get themselves with, that they have to use a credit card.
Yep, so, that's very true. Yep, very true. Good. Well, Scott, it's been about a little over a week since you coached your final game. I just kind of wonder, you made it very clear all season long that this would be your last year. Is there more of a finality to it after you coach your last game than you maybe anticipated, or has it been not that much different given the fact that you did announce that this would be your last year and, your final game came and went and hasn't really been anything different, any feelings different in your stomach over the past week or 10 days?
Yeah, I've had a wide range of feelings and emotions. It's still kind of surreal, and I'm trying to absorb it and, figure it out from that standpoint, what I'm supposed to be thinking, not be thinking. We did, we put this plan in place 2 years ago. I feel really good about that. I feel extremely, extremely confident in the job that Aaron Kloppenstein's going to do. So the loss, to be honest with you, Bruce, really still in my mind. I haven't had the opportunity to allow it to sit in that was the last game that I coached at Jackson Center as a varsity boys basketball coach, because the loss in itself, to be completely honest with you, still really stings for us. We felt like, we had won 26 straight games. From our opening game, we get beat by 1 to Rushi, win 26 straight, and then we end up getting beat by 2 in the regional final game. So that in itself is still so much sting for my team, for our coaches, or our community, that I don't think had time to absorb the fact that I just coached my last game necessarily.
How are your guys?
Does it make you watch basketball this weekend? Did it make you watch basketball any differently? I don't have to sit there and think about how do you attack this? How do you do this? How do you compete against this kind of team? Can you just watch it now for the sake of enjoying the game?
Yeah, probably, but I think once you're a coach, you're always a coach, so you're analyzing, critiquing, and plus this weekend there's a lot of what ifs, going through your mind as you're sitting there watching games. But we feel really good about the season that we had, and I thoroughly enjoyed this particular group of kids and all that they were able to accomplish.
What are any of their plans to continue to play in college at the D2 or D3 level, Scott?
Not at this moment. Maybe Jace. I know that he's been in some contact with some D3 schools, so I think that potentially is in the back of his mind. The majority of those guys are all trade type guys in their vocations and what they're going to do. So, probably not. But what we do know is that all of them, because we've got such a good alumni base, and they've got such good brotherhood, that so many of them come back throughout the season to help us practice and do those type of things. And this group will be the exact same way.
I'd be curious to get your coach's evaluation of some of the guys that we saw play in the Division I level, like Gabe Cupps and Devin Royal. We're going to see a lot of those guys over the coming years. Gabe Cupps at Indiana, Devin Royal at Ohio State. As you watch those guys, you probably see things I don't see, and that a lot of people don't see. What do you notice about those two players?
Well, I'll start with Gabe, just simply because I've seen him play numerous times. But I think you could probably ask any high school coach in the country, and he would be a first pick type guy on most teams, just because of all the value that he brings to the floor. His understanding of the game and the way he communicates that with his teammates is off the charts. He obviously can pass and defend and score, and he just knows how to let the game come to him and get his teammates involved. He is truly just a tremendous point guard from that standpoint. Just unbelievable. Like I said, you'd love to make him the nucleus of your team, because he inherently is going to make everyone else better and just make his team great. I was very impressed with Royal. I've seen him play live twice now. I saw him play last year in the final game, and then I saw him in the semifinal. I did not see the final game on last night. I did not see that one. But from what I can tell, he's probably going to be a good one for Ohio State. I'm not sure what they're thinking in terms of what his natural position will be at that level.
Yeah, I question whether he can guard threes. And he might be a little undersized for a 4, but he's got the upper body that I think he could probably get away with it. I like his elevation on his jumper. We had a picture on the site, man. He gets that jump shot as high as he can possibly get it. And I felt like I share your opinion of Gabe Cupps. I think he's just tremendous. I fell in love with him 2 years ago when I saw him, and it just tears my heart out that he's going to Indiana, because I think he's going to be a 4-year player and going to be a tremendous leader for them. His dad, Brooke, the coach of Centerville, said after the game the other night when Pickerington Central beat them that Gabe's leadership talents and traits is off the chart, and which I think we can all see that. But I wanted to ask, and it didn't seem like an appropriate question to ask at the time because he's Gabe Cupps' dad, but I'd like to ask you, when he talks about Gabe Cupps having leadership traits that are off the chart, how much of that is learned and how much of that is innate, that just comes from being the kind of kid he is?
Yeah, I suppose it's a mixture of the two. I mean, obviously he's been well groomed. Coach Cupps, record and what he's accomplished, is more than impressive. He's a very well respected and knowledgeable coach. And so, Brooks has a combination of things. I think, a lot of that is natural, but a lot of it was probably groomed in him from a very young age. And he's played so much basketball that, he just gets it.
Yeah.
He just understands it.
Well, there is a certain amount of that, I think, that you gather by osmosis. If I picture him being, around the game a lot with his dad and sitting in film sessions and ball boys for teams that, when Graham went to the state, I just picture it. Gabe has maybe learned that without knowing he's learning it at the time, because he just observed it at such close range.
Yeah, I think so. He's probably, and speak to my own boys, that, that I had him in the gym when they were 3 years old, you know what I mean? And helping with the team, coming to practice every day. And it becomes second nature in some ways. You just, like you said, it's what you grow up with. It's what you learn. It's what you become knowledgeable in.
Coach, I talked to a coaching friend from Eastern Ohio this afternoon, and he made the comment about the Richmond Heights game, both games. He said, I don't think you beat that team in Division IV. With that, you can shoot 60% from three-point range. He said you just have to keep their backs to the wall from range to have any kind of chance, because he said if you can do a lot of things defensively with him, but he said you're going to burn up so much gas, you're going to run the engine so hard you don't have anything left on the other end. So he said you got to shoot a high percentage from 3-point to beat him. Your opinion about that?
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, they can hurt you in so many different ways. When you play them, you have to worry about every aspect of the game, because they do have enough shooters. They obviously can play way above the rim. They can pressure the basketball both in a full court if they need to, or in the half court. When they get in their half court 1-2-2, they spread out and can make things very difficult. Obviously, we had plenty of tape on them as as we were getting ready for our regional games, with anticipation that we would be fortunate enough to potentially get to play them in a state semifinal game. And if we would have, I think we would have looked a lot different than people would have been used to seeing Jackson Center. I don't think we were going to be of the mindset, at least I was, that we were going to have to figure out a way to really score a lot of points and try to outscore them. I mean, we probably would have been coming down, and anybody on the first open look, we'd have been shooting the ball, and like you said, hopefully we were hitting a high percentage of those shots, and that's what I felt would have given us a best chance of at least, even trying to hang tight.
So I did find those attendance numbers, and they are down from 2022. The highest attendance was 8,500 for the Centerville Pickerington Central game, the semifinal on Saturday night. Ottawa Glandorf, as you guys said, had the second and third highest crowds, 6,400 and 6,000. And the lowest attended game was 3,600 for Lutheran East against Harvest Prep. The championship game last night brought in only, well, it's actually not listed here, so I don't know what it brought in. But that was one thing I wanted to ask you, Scott, and Sonny, is to get your opinion on it. I mean, I understand why the boys' games are played Friday, Saturday, Sunday, because we have the first four played there on Tuesday and Wednesday, and you need a day to get the arena ready. But I do really think it's unfair to a team to expect you to play for a state championship, particularly in a situation like Convoy Crestview's in. You've got one day to get ready for Richmond Heights.
Right.
I mean, that's just, forget it. And I think if Pickerington Central had a day to decompress from its win over Centerville, I will say I think we might have seen a different result against Hoban. Scott, as a coach, am I overvaluing time to get ready? Or if you played a semifinal on Saturday night, when do you think you'd be ideally prepared to play a game with the magnitude of a state championship game on the line?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be nice to have a whole full day, before you had to play. But, so many teams, I think, are accustomed to playing Friday, Saturdays. And a lot of times you come in on a Saturday morning, you implement your game plan, have a final walkthrough, then that afternoon, or at least that's typically what we do. And the teams with their assistant coaches probably already have advanced scouting reports put together on their opponents, so that I think they're ready to go with it. But when you have to come up, let's use Richmond Heights as an example. When you have to play a team like that, I'm not sure, to somehow try to simulate and implement what you're going to be playing against. I'm not sure if 2 weeks is enough time. You know what I mean? You had alone turn around and having to play them. Of course, that semifinal was on Thursday, and they played them on Sunday. So technically, they would have had a full day, to implement and try to put that together. But I think teams anticipate that when they go to the state tournament, that's going to be your time frame, and they're ready to roll for when they win that semifinal game with whoever that next opponent's going to be.
Well, I don't hear anything from the Mr. Folks end. Have we exhausted your topics tonight, Sonny?
Well, the only thing I want to follow up with is the fact that when I watched the tournament this year, I realized how much different the evolution of the game has become. And my mailbox all day today was peppered with people saying, "Hey, how could anybody from this area play with Luther and East in Division III or play with Richmond Heights in Division IV?" I don't have an answer for that, because you can't, like I said before, you can't play big players with little players of equal skill or lesser skill. And look, I don't know how those guys got there. Nobody really knows. Apparently, they're playing somehow, some way within the rules, the guidelines. But the game has changed, and the future of the tournament has changed. I'm not sure it's a good thing for the tournament, first of all, and people showing up. And I don't know where it leaves the game of basketball. I really don't, because, everything you hear in our culture today.
Oh, we lost him. I think we knew where he was heading there. I don't know, Scott. There's a romantic aspect. One of the things I love most about working for Press Pros is you get to follow those MAC schools to the state football title games. You get to follow Shelby County League basketball, MAC basketball, a lot of really good elite basketball where the whole community follows. And then there are some schools that community support doesn't appear to be there, but they have phenomenal talent and they are phenomenal teams. And, I don't know if Richmond Heights, I don't even know if there is a competitive balance factor where if they are so dominant at Division IV as they have been the last couple of years, if they will eventually get moved up. But I don't know how realistic it is to win a Division IV state championship as long as Richmond Heights is putting players out there that are being offered as Division I recruits when they're sophomores.
Yeah, I mean, it will be extremely difficult, but unfortunately, in my role, in my job, I don't make those decisions. You know what I mean? So I have to focus more on playing the cards that were dealt, and trying to figure out how you best handle that, moving forward. But you're right. I mean, it is our area with Shelby County and the MAC and all the other schools in our area. It does make high school basketball what's great. You know what I mean? Because the communities do care. They show up for games, and it's a big deal, and from one community to the next. And so that makes the regular season just great in our area.
Well, my other concern about it is that the future of baseball is tied to the future of basketball, because I see this very thing happening with all the select and elite teams and travel teams and the pay to play, and a little bit like AAU has done, or what it's done, or if it's done anything for high school basketball. And some of you guys, the coaches that I know, like Norm Pearson and others, Jim Staley, think it's a great thing. But there's another school of thought that says, look, here's where we are now. Here's what you saw yesterday in Division III and IV, and that's 50% of high school basketball is Division III and IV in terms of the division. So I don't know if it's a good thing or not.
Yeah, I guess only time's going to tell, but it would definitely appear to be trending that way.
So,
hey, Coach, I promised you 20 minutes tonight, and you've given us 20 minutes, and I know you're a busy guy and got other things going on. I certainly appreciate you're taking the time. I also want to add this. Of all the people I've run into across Ohio in basketball, you're at the top of the list in terms of being gracious with reporters and taking the time to talk and explain the game. I've learned an awful lot from you, not only about basketball, but how to treat people and how to be around, just how to do what you do and the way you've done it. And I admire it, and I congratulate you on it. And I wish you all the best and happiness for as many years as you have, that you've made the right decision, and you're going to have a good time with it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. You guys have always treated us well, and respect and really appreciate what you guys do for high school sports in our area. And it's easy to work for high quality, or easy to work with high quality people. So I appreciate it a lot. And I'm sure I'm still be seeing you guys around. I'm not going any place too far.
Good deal. Well, thank you for your time tonight, Scott.
Thanks, Bruce. Thanks, Sonny.
Take care. Scott Elchert, I guess I have to say now, former head coach at Jackson Center, which sounds a little weird, but I'm sure we'll get used to it. He has been
that had its moments.
Yeah. been a fixture on their sideline for the better part of a quarter century and affected a lot of lives, which is, of course, the most important thing beyond the wins. But believe me, there have been plenty of wins. Shout out to Riley Sagister. She's the Division IV Player of the Year from the Ohio Prep Sports Writers. Morgan Hunt, first team, and Tori Richards is third team. Brad Gray's the Coach of the Year. Great year for the Tri-Village Lady Patriots. And I presume we're going to have the OPSWA selections for All-State coming out for the boys maybe in a couple of days. Your Ohio State baseball team, Sonny, stays hot. Trey Lipsey's bat came alive on Sunday. And when do the baseball Buckeyes take the field next?
Play tomorrow night at Bill Davis against Wright State at 6 o'clock. And then again on Wednesday night against Toledo. That's their final non-conference games before the Big Ten starts on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday this week. And we are traveling with them to Bloomington, Indiana to play your favorite Hoosiers.
Oh, yuck. Traveling to Bloomington, Indiana. That one's a road series, is it?
Yeah, it's a big test for them because Indiana is one of the 2 or 3 teams that I can think of and point to in the Big Ten that has young talent that is enviable.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, young talent that's ready to play right now and to go out there and make an impact. They have a youngster out of New Albany that you know very well, Brock Tibbetts, catcher, that he's got Major League written all over him for the fact that he played for Dave Starling, got a great start, about 6'3", 220 pounds, reminds you a lot of Dylan Dingler, but he's hitting the ball well. He's playing very confident. Neat young guy, young man, and I'm looking forward to seeing him play and renewing acquaintances with him this weekend because you and I remember that state championship team 2 years ago with New Albany when he had such an impact in that championship game in Division I in Akron. So, yeah, they're a great young team. Got a lot of young sophomore talent that has blossomed quickly under Coach Mercer, and I'm looking forward to watching this because I think the Buckeyes now are 11-6. They've strung together 6-7 in a row. Their pitching will occasionally. What was it that Bruce? What was it that the old manager Earl Weaver used to call his closer out of the bullpen, pack and a half?
No,
they'll make you go through. They'll make you go through a few marbles before they get it done.
Yeah, that was Don Stanhouse, I believe, was full pack.
Don Stanhouse, pack and a half.
Yeah. Congratulations to the Ohio State wrestling team. We have added wrestling to our coverage content this year, and Mechanicsburg's Caleb Romero makes All-American for the third time, places higher than he had previously placed in the NCAA, gets third place with a win over a guy from North Carolina State that he had not beaten yet in his career. And he did it in the kind of fashion you would want. You would script it where you get a takedown at the expiration of time in the third period. He wins that match. He helps the Buckeyes finish fourth as a team. Ethan Smith wins his 100th wrestling match as an Ohio State Buckeye. The Bucks have 5 All-Americans: Caleb Romero, Ethan Smith, Jesse Mendez, Sammy Sasso, and Dylan D'Amelio. And Tom Ryan has recruited very well. We will see if Ohio State next year can take a bite out of Penn State. That is a tough bite to get, as the Penn State Nittany Lions won their 10th wrestling national championship in the last 12 years.
We were talking about baseball a moment ago, and we have the last 2 or 3 weeks, we've really had a tough time scheduling first-person interviews because so many people in basketball who are either tied up with the tournament, involved with preparation, who didn't want to take the time to talk or didn't want to, whatever advantage that might have given an opponent, or just for the fact of being away or having other priorities. So tonight, I assume by 11 o'clock or so like that, we renew the first-person series with Russia Baseball. Having just seen them played in the state tournament over the weekend, the boys state tournament, Division IV in the semifinals, they returned 7 of 9 of last year's state tournament starters, state championship starters in Division IV baseball. And Kevin Flippo is our guest tonight on First Person, and really does a great job of talking about flipping the script, turning the page about what is necessary to consider for the mental stress and physical stress of kids playing basketball on Monday, and on Thursday you got a baseball scrimmage. Mm-hmm. And Kevin's one of my favorite people in the area and high school coaching, and met with us earlier this afternoon. Did a great job. That's going to be on later tonight, certainly first thing in the morning. And Russia fans out there who tune in will get an opportunity to hear what he says about the 2023 Raiders baseball team, who, they returned 6 pitchers and 7 starting positions out of the state champions last year, beating Lincoln View in the Division IV finals. So I think the people in Russia have even more to look forward to over the next couple of months.
Yeah, that's quite a class of athletes they've got there. So congratulations to them. Grove City's the defending Division I state champion, are they not?
I'm not sure if Grove City won it in Division I last year. I don't think they did. But I know this: they've got a great team. They've got a great young pitcher there who's an Ohio State commit in Keegan Holstrom, and I think Ryan, their coach there, does as good a job as anybody I can think of. I'm a big fan of watching Grove City and the way they go about doing what they do.
And Dave Starling, who you mentioned, who was at New Albany and then retired, Dave is back this year. I forget where he is, somewhere in Hilliard, I want to say, but don't hold me to that. But Dave Starling's back, and the game of high school baseball is better with Dave Starling in it than it is with him out of it. We look forward to covering high school baseball and softball in the spring as weather permits and as our scheduling permits. Of course, Jeff Gilbert will have the latest on Ohio State's spring football battle between Devin Brown and Kyle McCord at quarterback, or Kyle McCord and Sammy Ball. Was it Sammy Ball, war number 33?
War number 33, Slinging Sammy.
Slinging Sammy, that's the number Devin Brown wears. We presume that will be who will populate the position battle at that spot. We have, what else do we have going down, Mr. Folks? We have Reader Speaks comments tonight, or are we saving those?
Well, look, let me say this about, there must have been 70 emails and text and things like that we got today over many of the same topics we just covered with Scott Elchert about the tournament. A lot of people are very, very upset and concerned about what they saw in the Division III tournament finals yesterday with Lutheran East against Ottawa Glandorf, because that Ottawa Glandorf team is a phenomenal team. And if they're phenomenal and they got beat the way they got beat by Lutheran East, it just leaves. More than one person said, how much better do you have to be? What do you have to do to compete?
Well, that was a close game. That was a less than 10-point game. You have it confused with Richmond.
It was, but you never got the feeling it was that close, because, again, like the guy who I talked to this afternoon from Eastern Ohio, they didn't shoot 60% from 3-point.
Oh, Sonny's kicked off by the vagaries of rural internet. I understand the complaints. I would love to know how many of those kids at Richmond Heights and at Lutheran East are there like all the other students at those schools got there. And if it's every kid, then okay, great. That's just how it is. Sometimes you get a great class of athletes. But, I will say it is very suspicious when Richmond Heights comes out for warm-ups and their warm-ups have a car dealer on the back of their warm-ups. That's just not something you see in high school sports. We don't have NIL in high school sports. I don't know why that's on their uniforms. It makes people look at them and wonder, well, what kind of role does the auto dealer play in the success of the Richmond Heights basketball team? And you can make any characterization of those kinds of questions that you want to. They are fair questions to ask, as are questions fair to ask about why you keep your starters in a basketball game where you're winning by 35 to 40 points with the game well decided in the fourth quarter. Those are all fair questions to ask. They don't come from any place other than just normal curiosity in the course of watching a game and knowing how most teams would react in that situation. We always hear from coaches that the guys on the bench don't get enough credit. They are on the scout team. They give us a great look. They don't get the glory. Well, give them the glory. You're up 40 in the fourth quarter. How about you put them in the game? How about you stop trying to embarrass the other team? That would be my thought on what transpired in the Division IV game on Sunday.
Well, Bruce, I've always said, look, if I'm going to play for a title, I want to beat the best. I want to beat the best if I'm going to win because I want that satisfaction. The problem is I have played some people who are bigger and better than me. I just never played 9 of them at the same time that was bigger than better than me. Yeah, I'll take my chances one-on-one with Winfield and Molitor. I've done that. Didn't go out so well, although I didn't do bad against Winfield. Molitor wore me out. But hey, look, it's a different thing when you got to get 9. When you got to beat 9 that look that big and that much better than you. That's a whole different game than what we all grew up with, and that's what a lot of people are saying today on social media. It's look, we don't grow those kind of kids in Putnam County. They don't come to Putnam County. Somehow they come to the suburb fringes of Cleveland.
Yeah, and I mean they got 118 boys, I think, in their school, and I think half of them must be over 6'5". That's what it seems like, but maybe it's something in the water. I don't know. But I don't follow the AAU scene. The AAU scene is one that's like Darwin's waiting room. I don't want to look in there, man. I don't want to know how the AAU sausage is made. But I've gotten a fair amount of emails today too about that's an AAU team playing together under one high school's name. And look, there are rules that only 3 guys I think from a high school can be on an AAU team. I don't know, but here's why we bring those emails to the table. Those are the thoughts that people have. And, trying to ask those questions in a state tournament environment is not ideal because the state tournament's going on. You want to ask about the state tournament, not about,
all right,
Bruce, are your guys eligible? Where did this kid go to school last year? How did he show up at your school this year?
Well, Bruce, let me say this. The fans and the people in the stands here are the losers in this scenario because they want answers for these questions. The OHSAA is saying they're following the guidelines, and still the people saying, yeah, but we're just kicking a can down the road. Every year, this issue is more magnified than it was the previous year. We have no future because, like somebody wrote today from Putnam County, where Ottawa Glandorf is, we don't grow kids like that here in those numbers. That said, we have no shot in the future. Basketball for our kids is not relevant, or not for their kids, but basketball is not relevant for kids in that culture of basketball, in that environment of athletes, when year after year after year, this is what you have to look forward to if you get through a district and a regional. When you get there, this is what you have to look forward to. And I feel badly for those people because they're the one who support the schools, the supports, and by the way, the OHSAA and the NFHS works for them. They don't work for it's not the other way around. They're there to, serve those people. And right now, those people don't believe they're being served very well.
Well, I would say this: Ottawa Glandorf has nothing to be ashamed of. They've gotten to two straight state championship games. They are the epitome of a team that the community follows. They beat Afrocentric in the semifinals twice, so it's not like they're incapable of beating teams that people have had questions about before. How teams come together. Afrocentric is one of those schools that a lot of people wonder if they are taking advantage. I'm not saying breaking rules. I'm saying taking advantage of the rules as they are written. Afrocentric has a tremendous player in Dalen Swain. I wish he was going to Ohio State. Instead, he's going to Xavier. He'll have a tremendous career at Xavier, and Ottawa Glandorf found a way to win that game. They've got a tremendous player in Colin White. I would just say get back in the gym and get better, and there's no disgrace in finishing second in the state by less than points. I think they acquitted themselves quite well. It's just the talent disparity between Richmond Heights in Division IV and every other Division IV team. And we can say this because we had how many top 10 Division IV teams in the Press Pro's original coverage area? We had 4 of them. We had Troy Christian, Russia, Marion Local, and Jackson Center. And you could put an all-star team together of those guys and practice for a month, and you probably wouldn't beat Richmond Heights. So that's what people find extremely fishy. The Ottawa Glandorf thing, I think they're a great story. I think, with Colin White, nothing's out of their reach. They can and have competed. It's the Richmond Heights thing that just from the outside in, and it may be totally totally legit. But isn't the coach at Richmond Heights the guy who used to coach All Ohio Red in AAU? That's what people hear.
Yes.
That's what people wonder about. And those are questions that,
Yeah.
you know, I do not subscribe to the theory that asking a question that is a legitimate question, that if there were 5,000 people in the building, 4,000 people have that same question, that is not an unfair question to ask. That is, in fact, the job of a journalist, to ask a question that fans want asked, that they want an answer to.
Well, I'm just saying that there's a lot of people who sat in the stands this weekend that suffered for what they watched, because they came away believing that wasn't an example of equality and fairness, which is what, you know, all of our administrators now say that they stand for, and they're pushing that can down the road instead of the obvious can that people are looking, saying, hey, look, you know, what's our future in basketball for our kids in our community? Because we just simply can't attract that kind of athlete.
Well, life's not fair, and the sooner you learn that, the better off your life is going to be. And so maybe that's what the takeaway, the ultimate takeaway is in Division 4, is that do the best you can, work the hardest that you can, and at the end of the day, you can look yourself in the mirror with a clear conscience, knowing that you didn't break any rules and that you gave everything you had.
Agreed.
That's all I have from my end, unless you have something else you'd like to leave with the folks. We appreciate you guys watching, sharing the replay. We appreciate you following us on Instagram, Press Pros Magazine, following us on Twitter at Press Pros Mag. Keep your eyes on the site for daily updates in the lowdown presented by Lehman's Hardware and Old Time General Store. We will be out covering baseball as soon as they get out on the field and start playing baseball. Sonny, I'm sure, will be at the Ohio State baseball games on Tuesday and Wednesday night. It looks like his internet has given up the ghost. And so with that, I will bid you all a fond farewell. And thank you for joining us. And have a great rest of your evening. And we'll talk to you again soon here on the Press Pros Monday Huddle.